Wix Studio, one end-to-end web creation platform for your agency to deliver exceptional work with absolute efficiency.
Taylor Swift is a link builder. There were rumors that she would get engaged. Our client said, let's give them a free wedding venue. And then we got them 50 links. That's digital PR.
Managing multiple clients or large websites? Automate your SEO with Ali AI. Start your free trial now.
Thank you very much. So yes, I'm Nathan, an Organic Strategy Director at Crowd. We've got offices based sort of in the UK, in London and Shrewsbury. But what I would like to talk to you all about today is ultimately a transformative era that we are currently entering within search. Now, we've already started moving through this, but it's going to accelerate at a really great pace over 2025. Now, one of the reasons for that, which I'm sure everybody is currently aware of, is Google is in the midst of 2 running antitrust trials at the moment, running concurrently. The latter one, a little bit more concerned with Google's activities within the ad tech space, monopolistic practices there. But the first one, which is supposedly nearing some sort of end, is more concerned with how Google is stifling competition, trying to take market share away from them. Now, the Department of Justice are currently successful in how they're pushing this through. Now, meanwhile, whilst this is happening, we've also got the EU and their Digital Markets Act. Now, the Digital Markets Act also looking at Google's monopoly, but in a slightly different way. They're looking at Google's gatekeeping actions within the search engine results page and how Google are filtering users from going to the end provider, service provider's websites. Now, ultimately, both of these trials and compliance issues that Google are moving through, it has an issue with Google's monopoly. So you can see here, Statista data, global market share of search engine use. Google have enjoyed 85 to 90% of market share since 2015. Some signs of it waning in the last year, but ultimately, they're not holding this fairly. Now, there's 2 key issues that I'm quite interested in what the Department of Justice are pushing and what the EU's Digital Markets Act are pushing, and why I think this could ultimately become the detriment of Google's search. The first one, which is what the Department of Justice is slightly more interested in, is how Google are paying to be the default search engine across devices. So Google are paying Apple and Samsung billions and billions of pounds every single year to make sure they remain the default search engine on devices. Now, ultimately, this does mean that users will just use Google with the familiarity, with the ease, and they will remain as so. But more importantly, it also really disincentivizes the likes of Apple from building their own product, building their own search feature to market. They would ultimately lose the billions of pounds Google are paying them, but they also have to sink billions of pounds into building this. They don't know if it would definitely work. Is it worth the risk? The other area, which the EU maybe is a little bit more interested in, the gatekeeping action, is looking at how Google's prioritizing SERP features like flights packs, shopping results, maps packs. Now, you could argue that actually these are very, very good UX features for the user. It really does mean that users don't have to keep navigating in and out of different websites to find the right price, find the right products, find the right area. But it does limit the amount of traffic going to these end result websites. And the EU is saying it's not really fair. Now, that's a good UX feature, arguably, and it does, if Google aren't allowed to do it anymore, or as the aggressive manner they have been, it opens the door to other platforms to offer a similar experience. Now, there's some similarities that I'd like to call out here. I think we've been here before. Now, back in 1998, the Department of Justice, in a very, very similar way, started cracking down on Microsoft for the monopoly it was pushing on Internet Explorer. We've got an outdated, arguably complacent browser. It's preventing alternative browsers entering the market. And you've got competitors with that little gap, that little door opening, Mozilla, Safari, 10 years down the line from that point, Chrome, all waiting to pounce and seize on the opportunity. And we think that alternative search engines threaten Google in exactly the same sort of way. I've surfaced here research from Datos and Sonata Insights done this year in May. They've looked at how many users across the US on both mobile and desktop are interacting with different platforms and using them as a search engine. Now, what I really like here is the broad spread of how many different platforms people are now engaging with. You've got on the x-axis, the monthly active users, the y-axis, the amount of searches each person is doing on the platforms. I want to call out Copilot, Reddit, TikTok, Pinterest. But really interestingly, something I'm using quite a lot at the moment is Perplexity, an AI search tool. Now, Perplexity has seen 5 times the amount of growth across its user base over the last 12 months. It's really gaining traction. And if we go back to our statistic graph as well, if we zoom in on what Bing is gaining in the global market share, it's going above that 10% mark. Again, can it thank Copilot and the AI search features for that? But something's happening here. Now, when competitors can see that actually users are willing to diversify, they're willing to come away from Google here, this gives them the incentive to bring things to market. And we've seen OpenAI join that race. They announced in July 25th this year that SearchGPT would be coming to market. Now, we found out in an interview with Sam Altman, OpenAI CEO, last year, he said that, well, yes, we are bringing this to market, but it's not just to create another version of Google here. We want to completely reinvent the search engine model. Do we think we can do this where Google is reliant on paid ads, paying for everyone's experience? Can we come away from that and offer something completely different, arguably better? Google are trying to respond to this. They do see the threat. We've obviously seen AI overviews coming in more and more into our SERP results here. However, ultimately, Google can't implement wide changes, large-scale changes, which disrupt that revenue and shareholder value based on the ad model that they're so reliant on. We see here the 2 slides that were leaked from the antitrust trial. We've got evidence here that when Google falls short of their revenue targets, they just dial up that PPC a little bit more, that ad tech space, pushing down the organic search experience. And this is a threat because AI search will change user behavior. We think that ultimately searches will become far, far more conversationalist. People can now be far more specific within AI search tools as to exactly what they want out of a product or service. They can do that upfront work so they're not going in and out of websites trying to work out exactly the different parameters that they want. And Google's model will really struggle to fulfill this. I've got on the right-hand side here a search that we've done from the similar search you just saw on the last slide with those parameters. And we can see Perplexity's result here is far, far greater than the one that Google could really offer. So we've got here office space with rooftops and cycle storage in London, and it pulls out the individual products and exactly how it meets that criteria with a little map as well, so users can go directly to these products. That's a far better experience. At the moment, Google's reliant on that ad revenue it's pulling in from people wanting to be present within the ad space with broad generic landing pages. It can't push AI overviews for the ad space. So we see that Google's going to really struggle to accommodate this as it stands at the moment. Whilst this is all going on, we've also heard from Yasmin as well that social search is threatening the space. So for a couple of years now, we've seen growing amounts of data in how people use TikTok as a search engine, and 2024 and 2025 will be absolutely no different. So we've got research from Adobe in 2024. They're looking at the majority of Gen Z now using TikTok as a search engine, and almost half of millennials, ultimately the generations that are going to determine our digital marketing efforts. Now, what was interesting was not just the fact that people are using TikTok as a search engine, it's ultimately why do they prefer it? Why are they gravitating towards TikTok as a search engine? Ultimately, the #1 reason called out in this study was that the algorithm's based on user engagement and not brand authority. So you've got people like, similar situations to the people searching, validating this is a good result, this is good value, this is good content. So if I look at a search for holiday packages in Spain, you've got trip.com, a slightly smaller, newer, AI-based platform site who feature here with really good engagement signals, offering a good experience, and you've got TikTok providing the search highlights at the top. We do these similar searches in Google search, holiday packages in Spain, holiday packages in Italy. We've also got the PPC results at the top, but even the organic listings, it's exactly the same sites listed over and over, just in a slightly different order, all offering very similar landing pages, very similar experiences. Now, Google are aware of this threat. We saw a couple of years ago, Google's Senior Vice President of Search, he says 40% of young people, when looking for a place to go to lunch, they don't go to Google Maps or Search that are just serving them the same generic results. They go to TikTok or Instagram. What are people saying are actually really, really good spots? Now, finally, Google are seeming to do something about this. They are trying to catch up here. We had a little bit more insight after the 2024 broad core update. A little bit of different messaging to what we previously just, the generic stuff we usually receive. And they said, we want to push a range of high quality sites, including smaller independent sites when they're relevant to user searches. But how are Google going to be able to surface the smaller businesses, know that they can trust them without having an algorithm that's completely based on user engagement? Reddit seems to be an answer they're turning to at the moment. And it's not just Google, it's OpenAI as well. They're starting to train their AI models based on Reddit, based on the engagement seen there, based on upvotes, etc. So they can get that digital word of mouth coming through and influencing the algorithms. Now, we know earlier in the year that Google leaned a little bit too heavily on Reddit to directly influence their AI overviews results, and they had to scale this back a lot. However, they're not completely ignoring Reddit after that. They're using it in a different way now. We've seen the amount of organic traffic going to Reddit over the past year completely skyrocket, and that's Quora as well. So you can see here that Reddit's seen a 253% increase in organic traffic, Quora's seen 133%, all skyrocketing at the same time that AI overview starts to get pushed a lot more aggressively in the UK. Now, this is a lot of information, and there's a lot of different directions we go from here. So how do we really summarize all of this, and where do we really go from here? There's 3 key strategic objectives I'd like to share with you all. The first one is scaling content for conversational queries. Now, there is absolutely bucket load of content out there for the short tail queries. That's where the search demand is, that's when we're told to focus, and there's enough out there. There's far less content out there for the specific needs of each individual user, and actually a lot fewer brands who are able to fulfill all of these needs. So at the moment, with few brands, less content, LLMs have quite a hard job to do in being connecting the dots here. Previously, where we're going after the search demand, all of our optimization efforts, they typically are focused towards the top of the site hierarchy, the broad level categories where that search demand is. And we have the broad sort of level category guides coming from this. We need to start moving down the funnel, and we need to start getting much, much more specific to accommodate conversational search. We need to start building out what are the shared products, shared features, what are the audience traits, and how can we build out more detail around all of our products and help this get surfaced. It's going to be really difficult trying to cover every single search permutation there's going to be within conversational search. But how do we help LLMs connect the dots here so that if our brand is eligible, it can be surfaced if we do have everything the user completely wants? SEO teams have a big job to do in starting to really build up information repositories around all of the products and services that they're working on. We need to understand everything about the audiences, everything about the products. We need to filter this and accommodate this with FAQs that people are asking. This could be through chatbots, from what the sales team have been reporting back. User review content as well. What are people saying they like and dislike about the product? So we need to get this really good understanding, a very detailed understanding of every single product and service we are trying to market. And we need to be able to map this out as well. Now, this is going to be a lot of work in the short term, but ultimately, hopefully, across a lot of areas, there will be a lot of shared features and benefits, shared audience across products, but we need to be able to filter this data so we can say, okay, across these products, we've got these shared features, but actually we've got a few products which offer something a bit different. Here's the outlier here. We heard Yasmin in the sort of previous talk about how sustainability is going to become really, really important here. So we can start to call out, how are we delivering this stuff? What's our sustainability practice? Is this capturing absolutely everything about the product or service that we're offering here? And ultimately, once we've built these information repositories and we've understood everything we've got, everything about the audience, we do have at our fingertips the content to roll out at scale to hopefully start to target some of these conversational queries. We've got the basis of building a product page. We've got articles, if that's what the route we're going to go down, feature A for audience type A, etc. We've got it all available. Brands who ultimately withhold information, we do think will suffer here. I'm thinking about the mobile networks, the expensive gyms that really do want to hold back the prices, want you to give them a call before they actually tell you the final deal that they're going to give you. People are going to be more demanding of getting this information up front. Keyword research will still help us prioritize this content, but we need to look beyond what the traditional forms of search engine demand are telling us. So we've still got Keyword Planner, data from SEMrush, Ahrefs, but we need to supplement this a lot more. TikTok is growing in its use. At the moment, TikTok Keyword Planner, quite broad, doesn't have the long tail information, but we know what basically TikTok's serving to the big keywords. What are those videos actually talking about that people are then engaging with, interacting with? Can we start to note that down? What are the comments coming off of these videos that are being engaged with and liked? What are they saying that they like about it? And then also picking up what people are doing on Quora and Reddit as well. What questions are people asking in the forums? What are getting generally engaged with, and what are the answers coming up that are getting upvoted around our products and services? So we can start to really build an understanding from the additional platforms here, exactly the specific features that people may not be going to Google to search within, but they're going to the other platforms to search within. So what content should we be surfacing here? So we understood our products, we understood what features, benefits, audience types may be most important. How do we start structuring this content for LLMs? And this is actually where some nice familiarity comes into play. So the likes of Perplexity, You.com as well as Googlebot, they ultimately are based on search crawlers crawling the index to build their database, to build their fresh index. These are these are known as retrieval augmented generator, the RAG models. So unlike GPT models, their index is ultimately based first and foremost on what their search crawler goes out and crawls the index for. Now this means that we're optimizing for search crawlers. The familiar ranking factors are all still key here. Technical SEO is still key, content formatting, clarity across all of that. That's still going to be really, really important here. And in the same way that we do maybe a SERP analysis to understand what does Google rank, what does it not rank, we can also do this across LLMs as well. What type of articles or context or answers, what are the LLMs really surfacing here? What type of information do they really seem to prefer? Is it articles? Is it product pages? What are the other ranking factors that we know and are familiar with? Are they important across the pages that LLMs are surfacing? And we can start to build content briefs from this. So we understand within the industry we're researching at the moment that actually LLMs seem to prefer text-based articles, not product pages, with a dedicated author, updated weekly. So we can start to confine and start to define what sort of content we want to be building here to target the LLMs. We've been testing this a lot of crowds, and we've started seeing results coming through to platforms like Copilot. So like I said, it's not sort of the product pages which are getting, in our industry, getting surfaced within the answers here. It tends to be long-form editorial articles. We've been basically wrapping up the broad benefits that we want to talk about and then sub-benefits listed within the article. This seems to be enough for LLMs to start to connect the dots and surface us in some of these results. So we've understood what content and how to structure it. The final bit is pushing the content beyond the website. Now, we've talked about the RAG LLMs, but we've also got the GPT LLMs as well, which have a really high use rate. Now, they still have crawlers which go out and supplement their data, but ultimately the data that the GPT LLMs are based on are predetermined, predefined data sets. Now, for OpenAI and how they're building ChatGPT and SearchGPT, ultimately they lean on Common Crawl, an open source data set, crawls the entire web about once a month, does have some preferred websites it goes to based on links, etc. The likes of Wikipedia, Medium, sort of really high engagement sites. WebText 2, a data set also curated by OpenAI. What we understand about WebText 2 at the moment is that ultimately it scrapes pages from high engagement Reddit posts and links from high engagement Reddit posts. That's one specific thing we understand WebText 2 to be. It's likely it's going to be collating much more data than that as well. But these are the data sources that are being used to train OpenAI's GPT models at the moment. So our content does need to go a little bit beyond the realms of our own website and what we're pushing there. So we are seeing instances of content syndication could end up becoming much, much more important here, especially when we're writing specific articles to target maybe the more conversational queries, the more specific things than the broad generic keywords that we go after in Google search. We can see instances of competitors were researching in our niche, where they're posting the same article on Medium, linking at the bottom to the version of the article on the website. So this helps them really get that coverage and see it, and really help them to target the sources that are used to train the LLMs. And then using this content as well to be present in the community. We've obviously talked about how important Reddit is. Now, the best brand example I can find of somebody who's really engaging within the community across Reddit is actually SEMrush. SEMrush are using their articles to populate and really sort of fill out the answers they're giving to various queries across different forums. They're also directing people to help guides on their website as well. These get upvotes, these get engaged with, they build up those sort of factors, those engagement factors to be able to realign to rank tracking tools, digital marketing tools. And this is going to end up really being quite effective. So we've got our websites here being pushed out across different platforms. You know, the editorial syndicators, the forums. Obviously, we've talked as well a little bit about social media and the engagement factors there. Author discusses top 5 features for target audience. But not only by distributing this content out onto the different platforms beyond your own website are you targeting the sources used to train the LLMs, these all tie back to these new age ranking factors that we're going after as well. Brand authorship. This needs to be built beyond the realms of just one website as well. You know, if you start gaining engagement across and shares across other platforms using the individual author you're pushing or the brand author, this is really strong signals in Google's EEAT framework, for example. Brand mentions, popularity, engagement. These are all the digital word of mouth features that the likes of OpenAI and Google are trying to lean on a lot more with the threat of sort of TikTok being used as a search engine. So to very quickly summarize, scaling content for conversational queries, document everything about your product and audience needs, structuring the content for LLMs, familiarity is there here, optimal content formats and technical SEO is absolutely key. And then finally, pushing the content beyond the website, target all sources used to train the LLMs, adapt the content for use across all platforms, gain the engagement signals. Thank you very much. I'm Nathan. We've also got a QR code to download a white paper.
Monthly reporting making you want to shove sharp things up your nose? Try Dragon Metrics, the all-in-one SEO software with mind-blowing reporting tools.